John, a highly successful architect, sat alone on a park bench under the shade of a sprawling tree. Around him, children laughed and played, their faces glowing with joy, while parents watched with pride and affection. The scene tugged at something deep within John, a void he couldn't seem to fill. Despite his success, a portfolio of stunning buildings, luxury cars, and a penthouse overlooking the city skyline, loneliness weighed heavily on him. His mother's words echoed in his mind. Happiness isn't found in what you own, but in the connections you nurture. He glanced at a boy struggling to toss a basketball into a hoop, his father cheering him on. It reminded John of all the simple moments he had missed while chasing achievements. For years, he had believed success could compensate for the lack of personal relationships. Yet, sitting there in the park, he began to wonder if all the wealth and accolades were truly worth it. Could it ever replace the warmth of a shared moment, a loving family, or the laughter of a child? For the first time in years, he felt an ache in his chest that success couldn't fill. John wasn't always so alone. Years ago, he had someone who brought light and warmth into his life, Amelia. She was a teacher with a kind heart and a passion for helping others. They met at a charity event where Amelia had volunteered to teach art to underprivileged children. Her laughter filled the room, and her gentle yet vibrant energy captivated him. At the time, John was a young architect with big dreams. Their connection was instant, and for a while, their relationship flourished. Amelia grounded him, encouraging him to appreciate the world outside of blueprints and deadlines. She made life feel simple and meaningful, a contrast to the whirlwind of ambition that consumed him. But as John's career began to take off, the balance shifted. Late-night meetings replaced date nights, and his weekends were consumed by project deadlines. Amelia tried to support him, but the growing distance between them was undeniable. "I just need a little more time, Amelia," he would say, promising that things would get better. But time after time, work came first. Her patience wore thin, and so did her presence. One evening, as Amelia sat alone at the beautifully set dinner table, the candles burning low, she made a decision. With tears streaming down her face, she wrote a short note and left it on the kitchen counter. The house felt hollow as she quietly walked away, carrying only the memories of what once was. The note simply read, "I love you, but I can't keep coming last." For years, John told himself it was for the best. He convinced himself that his career was worth the sacrifice. But as he sat on that park bench, haunted by memories of her laughter and the life they could have had, he realized how much he had truly lost. As John sat in the quiet of his penthouse later that evening, memories of Amelia lingered in his mind. He had spent years building a life of luxury, but had no one to share it with. The city lights outside his window sparkled, but they only highlighted the emptiness within. His thoughts were interrupted by the ring of his phone. It was his mother. "John, it's been too long since you've been home," she said warmly. "I'm hosting Christmas dinner this year, and I want you to come." John hesitated. He rarely visited his mother, consumed by his work and the excuse that he was too busy. "I'm not sure, Mom. I've got a lot going on at the office." "Life isn't waiting for you, John," she replied gently. "Family is more important than any deadline. Please, come home. I promise you, this Christmas will be special." Her words struck a chord. After a long pause, John finally agreed, though with a sense of reluctance. "All right, Mom. I'll be there." As he hung up, John felt an unfamiliar pang of anticipation mixed with unease. Little did he know that his mother's invitation would bring more than just a holiday reunion. It would open a door to a part of his life he had long buried, a chance to find what truly mattered. The cold December air greeted John as he pulled into his mother's driveway. Her modest home was lit up with soft, twinkling Christmas lights, and a wreath adorned the front door. The scent of pine and freshly baked cookies filled the air as he stepped inside. "John, my boy," his mother exclaimed, pulling him into a warm embrace. She wore an apron dusted with flour, her face glowing with happiness. "It's so good to have you home." As they entered the cozy living room, John's gaze wandered over the festive decorations. A large Christmas tree stood by the window, its ornaments glinting in the soft glow of the lights. His mother's warmth was comforting, though something about the evening felt unusually significant. And then he saw her. Standing near the tree was Amelia, her expression a mix of surprise and unease. Beside her were 3 young children, their bright eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Amelia?" John's voice was barely above a whisper. "Hi, John," she said softly, her voice carrying both nervousness and resolve. She glanced at the children, who were giggling as they explored the decorations. John's breath caught as he took in their features. Dark hair, familiar expressions. His heart raced. Who are they?" he asked, though he already knew the answer deep down. "They're your children, John," Amelia said, her tone firm but tinged with emotion. Her words landed like a blow, stealing the air from his lungs. He stared at her, disbelief and guilt flooding his face. "Why didn't you tell me, Amelia?" His voice cracked, barely audible above the pounding in his chest. Amelia took a deep breath. "When I left, I didn't think you were ready. I didn't think you'd want to be part of their lives, and I couldn't bear the thought of them growing up feeling like they didn't matter to you, the way I felt back then." John ran a hand through his hair, the shock and guilt swirling within him. "Amelia, I didn't know. I didn't even get the chance to try." The children, sensing the tension, hesitated before one of them, a bold little girl with curls framing her face, stepped forward. She held a small ornament in her tiny hands. "Are you our dad?" she asked innocently, her voice breaking the silence. John crouched to her level, his eyes meeting hers. His heart ached with a mixture of love and regret. "Yes," he said softly. "I think I am." The little girl smiled and handed him the ornament. Her 2 siblings, encouraged by her bravery, joined her, surrounding him with wide-eyed curiosity. Amelia stood in the background, tears glistening in her eyes. She had feared this moment for years, but seeing John with the children gave her a glimmer of hope. "Why don't we sit down for dinner?" John's mother interrupted, her warm voice cutting through the tension. "It's Christmas, after all." That evening, the dining table was alive with chatter and laughter. The children talked excitedly about their favorite books and games, their enthusiasm infectious. John, still overwhelmed by the revelations, listened intently, trying to piece together the lives of the 3 children he never knew he had. After dinner, as the children played near the Christmas tree, John approached Amelia in the kitchen. She was tidying up, her face thoughtful. "I don't know where to start, Amelia," he admitted, leaning against the counter. "I've missed so much." Amelia sighed but met his gaze. "You can't change the past, John. But if you're serious about being in their lives, it's going to take more than words." "I know," he said firmly. "I want to be here for them. For all of you. I'll do whatever it takes." The next day, John made his first real effort to bond with the children. He brought out a set of art supplies he had picked up that morning and invited them to paint together. Though his attempts at drawing were laughable, the children giggled and eagerly corrected him, breaking the ice between them. After lunch, the 3 children huddled near the window, their eyes sparkling with excitement as they watched snow gently falling outside. "Mom, can we go outside and build a snowman?" the boldest of the 3 asked, turning to Amelia with an eager grin. Amelia chuckled, glancing at John. "What do you think, John? Up for some snowman building?" John hesitated for a moment, then smiled. "Let's do it. I could use some fresh air." The children cheered, quickly bundling up in coats, scarves, and gloves. John followed their lead, pulling on a jacket he hadn't worn in years. Out in the yard, the kids wasted no time diving into the snow. "We need 3 big snowballs," one of them shouted, already rolling a hefty ball for the base. John joined in, crouching beside the youngest to help shape the middle section. His hands were clumsy at first, but the children giggled and guided him, clearly amused by his lack of expertise. "Make it rounder, Dad," the oldest chimed in. The word dad hung in the air, striking John with a mix of joy and disbelief. His heart swelled as he realized this was the first time he had truly earned that title. They worked together, laughing as snow flew in all directions. When the snowman was finally assembled, complete with a carrot nose, stick arms, and a scarf, the children stood back proudly. "We did it!" they shouted, clapping their hands. John smiled, brushing snow off his gloves. "Looks like we've got a masterpiece here." Suddenly, a snowball hit him squarely on the shoulder. He turned to see the oldest grinning mischievously, already rolling another snowball. "Oh, you're in trouble now," John said, laughing as he scooped up a handful of snow. What started as a snowman building session quickly turned into a lively snowball fight. The children's laughter echoed across the yard, their cheeks flushed from the cold and excitement. Amelia watched from the porch, her heart softening at the sight of John playing so naturally with the kids. For the first time in years, the yard felt alive with joy. When the sun began to set, the group returned indoors, their boots leaving snowy trails behind them. "Best snowman ever," one of the children declared, and John couldn't help but agree. By evening, the dinner table was carefully set, decorated with candles and holiday decorations. The aroma of roast turkey and freshly baked cookies filled the house, creating a warm and cozy atmosphere. The children eagerly took their seats, the energy from their snowman adventure transferring to the meal. They told John's mother stories of their day, describing snowmen and snowball fights with exaggerated excitement. John listened intently, filled with pride and joy at being a part of their world. When the plates were cleared and dessert served, John stood up and raised his glass. The room fell silent as everyone turned to him. "I just want to say thank you," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you, Mom, for always reminding me of what's most important. Thank you, Amelia, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, my 3 wonderful children. Thank you for letting me be a part of your lives. The past few days have shown me what true happiness looks like, and I promise to do everything I can to be the father you deserve." The children cheered and clapped enthusiastically, while Amelia's eyes softened. Even though the road ahead was uncertain, she could see that John's words came from the heart. The first rays of sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a golden glow on the living room, where the Christmas tree stood tall, its twinkling light still glowing softly. The sound of excited whispers and hurried footsteps broke the early morning silence as the children woke up and rushed to the tree. "Mom, Dad, it's Christmas!" the youngest called out, her voice bursting with excitement. John and Amelia emerged from the kitchen, still holding their mugs of coffee, to see the 3 children already diving into the pile of brightly wrapped presents. Their laughter and squeals of delight filled the room as they tore through the wrapping paper, revealing toys, books, and art supplies. "Look, Dad," one of them exclaimed, holding up a new puzzle set with wide eyes. Another proudly displayed a stuffed animal, hugging it tightly. John stood near the fireplace, watching the scene unfold. A warmth spread through him, unlike anything he'd felt before. The pure joy on his children's faces, the way they shared their excitement with each other. It was a moment he would never forget. Amelia glanced at John, catching the soft smile on his face. "Worth getting up early for, huh?" she teased gently. John nodded, his voice filled with sincerity. More than worth it. For the first time in years, Christmas felt truly magical. As the evening drew to a close, the house was finally quiet. The children were asleep, their new toys scattered across the living room floor like remnants of a joyful storm. John sat on the couch, staring at the softly glowing Christmas tree, his thoughts a whirlwind of emotions. Amelia entered the room carrying 2 cups of tea. She handed one to John and took a seat beside him. "They had a great day," she said, her voice soft but filled with contentment. John nodded, his gaze distant but thoughtful. "It's amazing how much joy they bring. I can't believe I missed so many Christmases with them." Amelia placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "You're here now, John. That's what matters. But being part of their lives means committing for the long haul, not just for the holidays. I know, he replied, his voice steady. Today wasn't just about presents or decorations. It was about seeing what I've been missing. I'm ready to be their dad. Not perfect, but present. Amelia smiled faintly, her heart cautiously opening. If you mean that, John, we'll take it one day at a time. As the clock struck midnight, John sat in the quiet glow of the tree, his heart full in a way he hadn't felt in years. This wasn't just a holiday. It was the start of a life he had long forgotten was possible, a life filled with love, family, and purpose.